Next on Rugby Wrap-Up, a Major League Rugby extravaganza with Dan Power, Bryan Ray, and Matt McCarthy. Rugby Wrap-Up brought to you in part by The Pig and Whistle, the world's best rugby pub. The Murphy Kennedy Group, founded with the idea that construction can be done better. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Rugby Wrap-Up for a Major League Rugby extravaganza, along with a little bit of chit-chat about the international test window affecting Major League Rugby. And I'm here with Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News and Dan Power, the voice of Major League Rugby. Dan, you know, we got the international tests now in impacting our Major League Rugby. If the schedules hadn't been altered for COVID, this might not have been the problem, but it is now. And I figured we'd throw around maybe a couple ideas about the two teams that are hit the hardest and the two teams that are hit the least, and then a surprise omission and a surprise pick for a squad. And it doesn't have to be Team USA. It can be Bryan's Team Canada or one of the other teams in the tournament. So let's start with you, Dan. What team do you think is impacted the most by this?
The easy answer is Toronto, right? I think, 13 players, plus you add the South American players who will be gone as well. So it's a pretty significant hit. After that, well, there's a few teams that are kind of, you have to pick a team that's in the race for the finals. So I'm actually going to go with your local team, Matthew, in New York. I think they lose some key players to that side as well. And they are in a tight race on the East Coast there, that 1 and 2 spot.
I'm going to go with NOLA, actually. They've got, three guys, I think, picked to tour, Dolan, Guerra, and I'm missing somebody with the Eagles. And then they've got Nacho Dottie heading over to Uruguay at some point. And they've got Nick Bursic heading over with Chile as well. And then Kyle Bailey, Eric Howard, and Lockie Kratz selected for Canada. We're still waiting to see if Kratz is going to make the touring squad or not. So that's a pretty serious blow for NOLA, especially running down the stretch. You know, they kind of had ambitions of making the playoffs. All games are on the road from here on out. So to lose those key guys, that's not good news for Gold fans.
What team was impacted least, Bryan?
Well, you'd have to go with the Free Jacks because I don't think they have anybody selected for any of the teams. So I think that's a pretty safe bet.
But, you know, LA really doesn't get hit hard by this. What do they got? Luke Burton?
Yeah, Cardi. Cardi's probably
Cardi, right.
So there's more of a depth issue, right? If Matt Giteau gets hurt, you've got Luke Burton who can play 10 as well. If there's a depth issue and there is an injury there at 10, they may actually feel the pinch quite significantly. But otherwise, I think that guy named Matt Giteau is a pretty handy player at 10 with Cardi off on international duties.
All right, guys, before we get into the Major League Rugby stuff itself, who was a surprise pick for you on a team?
Listen, a surprise by name, but I don't think by performance, is Andrew Guerra out of NOLA Gold. Like, what a great story. Major League Rugby should really get behind this story. Comes out of Notre Dame College, gets drafted by NOLA. Probably wasn't on many people's draft boards, to be honest. Flew under the radar, got in the gym, worked his tail off, and has had an absolute stellar year. I like a lot of the stuff he does. He's still got a lot of room to grow, but getting to go away with Gary Gold, getting to work with Rob Hoadley is going to be wonderful for his game as well on that USA team. So he's probably, to me, was the surprise name in there, but I'm not surprised he's there, if that makes sense.
Mike Deboulis is the guy I think is a surprise. Certainly Guerra up front, but Deboulis, I don't think many people had him on their Eagles list. Certainly I didn't. Not for lack of talent. Certainly we've been impressed with how his running lines are going at fullback, and he's been playing a bit of wing for Old Glory too, bit of fly half. He's just, because he's so new, he's young, you know, just so to see him kind of elevated that quickly is a big boost for him, and he'll have a great experience heading over there with the quality that he's going to be around.
I'm going to go with a young gun, Connor Mooneyham. I mean, who saw this coming?
Yeah, I don't know how you could say that, to be honest, because Mooneyham has been red hot since day one. I mean, yeah, he's been unexpected in that the impact that he's had in MLR, but every game that he's played for Austin, he's looked tremendous. And I think a lot of people were kind of saying it would almost be a travesty, if he was left out based on form.
Guy, I live in New York City, and I watch NFL quarterbacks get drafted all the time and pan out to be nothing. Connor Mooneyham, yeah, okay, first draft choice ever in Major League Rugby. Did any of us believe he was going to be this? No. That's why he's my surprise. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, eh? All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back with Major League Rugby. Quick recap. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back with Major League Rugby, a quick recap of last week, and then previews of next week. We'll be right back.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
We are back with Mr. Bryan Ray and Mr. Dan Power. Gentlemen, let's look briefly at last week before we get into our previews. We had our first one up was Austin going into Houston for that Texas Derby or Texas Cup, whatever you want to call it.
It was a must-win for Austin, right? Stay in touch on that Western Conference race now that's become a four-horse race. It's become quite exciting. They had to go down there and get the job done. Just continue agony for Houston and their fans. I feel for them. But Austin got the job done on the night. Good performances. The guy that you hate, that you don't rate, you think's terrible, Connor, the money man, Mooneyham, comes back from injury, has another great game. His impact on that back line is pretty significant. He just provides so much spark and energy to the back line. It was pretty flat, to be honest, in the last couple of weeks. Just hasn't looked as creative as it should be in his absence. So good to see Austin get a win down there on the road and keep themselves in the hunt on the West.
How dare you suggest that I have anything but love for Connor Mooneyham? I am just surprised.
Yeah, I'm getting frustrated watching Houston the last 2 or 3 games, and it's because of their decision making more than anything. I want them to put away the kicking tee and start playing for tries. They're not going to be winning games 9-8. So forget about taking the points. You don't need it. You're 2-8, whatever it is. Who cares if you lose another game? Play to win the game, score some tries. I want to see more ambition from the SaberCats.
Well, with that bit of wisdom, that segues perfectly to a game that you indeed would take that kick. Atlanta going into NOLA, Dan.
Huge crowd. Like best crowd I've seen in NOLA since MLR kicked off in 2018. To go in there in that hostile environment and get that kind of a win, well done. That was a statement win on the road, and that looked like finals rugby. 8-7 reflects that too. Defense was great. Both sides, I thought, played well, had their opportunities, and I come away so impressed with ATL after that.
Yeah, this is the amazing thing about this game. This is another one with ATL had something like 35% possession. Their line-out accuracy was atrocious. The second half, I don't even remember if they won a single one. They're trying to go one-on-one with Cam Dolan, the line-out. Big mistake. That didn't work out. NOLA made advances, but they never really threatened on the line. The one try they got was one of the weirdest tries I've ever seen in MLR. Duncan Van Skalkvijk just kind of fell asleep and gave the ball to Dolan for a try. But to have the confidence to come back, the defensive stand, that tackle from Mark O'Keefe, holy moly. And that was one of the highlights of the year. Just an astonishing tackle on Kyle Rogers, prevented a certain try. So to put that kind of a defensive effort together after just doing the same thing against LA was really impressive to me.
Yeah, I tell you what's really impressive to me is moving on to the next match, looking at your background, Brian, because that to me looks like you are a staunch San Diego Legion supporter. And Dan and I both told you that you would be sporting San Diego stuff. Your arrows came up short again, off target.
Yeah, I got my buddy Sheridan and his cohort friends hanging out there in the background. All I can say is well done to them. They're all actually in the stands right now at Torero, just waiting for that next home game in a couple of weeks. This is just kind of almost a microcosm of the season for Toronto. They just didn't execute at the key moments. How many times Pete Steinberg commentating in the match noted it perfectly. They throw it over to the right. They're making some progress, knock on. They throw it over to the left, making some progress, lost the ball in contact, and it was just doing that all game. So I'm actually surprised that they got the 30 points because about 15 minutes in the game, it looked like it was going to be a blowout for San Diego. So, I guess there's that to applaud, but just not the best day for the Arrows. And, and really San Diego, for a team that didn't look super sharp, still scored 40 points. So that's kind of ominous.
Dan, you want to take back the statement that you issued last week that I was just stupid and ridiculous for saying that San Diego was going to come out of the West after coming in second? You want to?
I just wanted it on the record because it was audacious, to say the least. What a performance. Paddy Ryan, just to rub some salt into the Houston Sabercats wounds. The two centers, Lutz and Marani, look unreal. They're playing so good. Tian Lutz looks like he's going on the blended diet of just eating, a head of cabbage or something a day because he looks lean and mean. He's running hard lines, and it's like both those guys were in Houston less than 12 months ago. So San Diego could be right, Matthew. Next 3 weeks, we'll find out the next 3 weeks. So they play all three teams above them on the ladder in the next 3 weeks. If they can win 2 out of 3, so if they beat Utah, Austin, and we'll give them the LA game, we'll see what happens there. And as long as Joe Peterson's healthy, I'll always put my money on San Diego to be a chance.
Matt, I think you were withholding intel from us last week when you made that prediction too. I had no idea they were getting Tom Franklin and Dan Pryor and 2 Maori international forwards. And now we're hearing rumors that there's an Australian international fly half who might be showing up there too.
Yeah.
Not sure what's happening there.
Details. Minor
what's
details.
going on here?
I can tell you what it rhymes with, Brian. It rhymes with Fernard Bowley. So
This is a need-to-know basis for you guys. I'm supposed to look smart here. Remember? Hello. Okay. Speaking of smart, Dan, you had mentioned your guys from Utah, your Mountain Men. They went into Seattle and almost blew it.
Seattle looked good. They're knocking on the door again. They could play that role of spoiler here down the stretch and beat some teams. I think they're going to beat some teams in these last 6 rounds. So heartache again. What a finish. And look who drives the dagger in. Ex-Seattle Seawolf, Ollie Khalifi.
You have to be happy for Ollie Khalifi. I mean,
over the moon. Yeah, great guy.
Unbelievable guy coming back from serious injury. And, big game, big win at Starfire, Brian.
Yeah, the conditions didn't really suit Utah, did they? I mean, we hardly saw Kruse and Teo outside. And, the tides really shifted when Hagen Schulte came in and started pounding the ball down the field, winning field possession. For Seattle, it's almost like they've forgotten how to play when they're in the lead. I mean, they were up 28-15 at one point in that second half and just couldn't close out that final quarter. So unfortunate for them, but they did look, a much better side than certainly we've seen earlier this season. So, yeah, I mean, maybe there is opportunity for them to make some noise in these last few weeks.
Old Glory going into Massachusetts, Dan.
I think we talked about New England's run, right? A lot of home games. This was the first of many. They've got a bye tossed in there as well, which will help them get fresh. They've got some troops coming back. They could be the San Diego of the East. They've got the draw to do it, make a run. But boy, oh boy, did they just not want to win that game at the end. Just kept giving Old Glory chance after chance. That last play, Robinson goes through. I think he looks, had Tussi Tyler on the inside, doesn't go to hand. They drop it. And I'm just like, if I'm Ryan Martin, it's, happy we got the win with the bonus point. But boy, oh boy, you've got to start tearing some strips. That last 10, 15 minutes, he's on in the film room, and you're like, we don't get this chance against better sides.
Yeah, I mean, it was, 31-12 or 14, something like that at one point, and it looked like this was home and dry for the Free Jacks. And I'm sure, James Willocks, the defensive coach, is probably having a heart attack seeing the amount of space they're leaving Robertson, who was just ripping them to shreds. He was almost, willing that team himself over the line. You could see the daggers, he's heading towards Danny Tusitala for dropping that offload at the end. But, that's a great show for him and for Ogle. I thought Cusano and Noble, the 2 American wingers, the young guys, came on the second half and really impressed both of them with their just the speed and the aggression that they play. They're fearless. They're not the biggest guys, but they're, blasting into people with no regard for their own safety. So that was good to see. But yeah, definitely one that the Free Jacks should have been a lot more safe with. They should have had that one wrapped up and they just kind of collapsed in that last quarter.
All right, let's take a quick break and come back with previews of next week with Mr. Bryan Ray and Dan Power after this.
Been blind since I was 4, and I've never seen a beer commercial or a beer label. None of that stuff influences me. I drink beer because of the taste, and my beer is Pabst Blue Ribbon. It has the taste and the flavor.
What do you think's on the label?
I think there's a naked woman riding on a unicorn, jumping over fire. Oh, that's good beer.
Mr. Dad Power, Mr. Bryan Ray. Gentlemen, we've got another huge weekend of rugby ahead of us in Major League Rugby. First one up, New Orleans, going into D.C.
DC have done well at Segra Field this year, so it'll be a tough game for NOLA, but they've got to win this game. So I'll go NOLA just on the fact that they must win this game. What are they in fourth position now? But the points are quite tight, so yeah, it's going to be a really tough run for NOLA. But they control their destiny, and it starts this weekend, Matthew.
Dan, they did let up a whole lot of points to New York at Segra Field, and now they let up 38 points on the road. Brian, what can this defense do for Old Glory to slow down NOLA's attack? Because NOLA can get some points on the board.
The pressure is all on NOLA. I mean, we said they had to win against ATL. That was their last home game. They didn't quite get it. They got one bonus point out of it. I mean, this is it. This is absolutely it this weekend. If they don't win this, it's over and done with, So a heck of a lot of pressure on NOLA. I'll go with NOLA in this one, but I'm very hesitant. I think Old Glory can definitely cause an upset here.
In all fairness, you're right. I didn't think of the people that the personnel that were missing when they played New York and even New England. And if they get some of those bodies back, that's a different Old Glory team. And at home, and they just announced that they're going to have shuttles for fans going to and fro with beer tickets and beer discounts. So that can be an entirely different atmosphere next week, and I'm looking forward to it. But I think NOLA has to win this match to stay alive this season, and because they have so many games on the road, this is the one on the schedule that Nate Osborne has to circle to get a win. You got to get a win here if you NOLA. So I'm going to go with the more desperate team, I think, because I think Old Glory's out of it. The next one is the Arrows going into Austin, Brian.
Yeah, if I'm going to say that about Old Glory, I have to concede it. Sadly, that Toronto is just not in the race anymore, unfortunately. That's, I know, shock and awe.
Whoa. What is Dan? This is a first here on Rugby Wrap-Up. A first. Bryan Ray saying that the Arrows are not going to win. It's because he doesn't want Gilgroni background behind him.
Now you're taking words out of my mouth. I didn't say they're not going to win. I said they're not going to go to the playoffs, but I do think they're going to win this game. How about that for you? Fired it back. AGs, they did okay against Houston, but I just wasn't super convinced, and they're still banged up. They're still missing guys. I think Toronto needs to get it. They lost back-to-back games now. They have to. They don't want to go 3 in a row. I don't care, if the season's gone or whatever. They got pride to play for. I expect them to front up. So I'm picking the Arrows to spoil Austin and ruin their playoffs hopes in this one in Texas.
I'm going with the home team in this one. I think our Canadian colleague has just gone bonkers up in Halifax. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Brian's going to look real pretty with that burnt orange behind him next week. That's all I'm going to say. No, I think we could see. Well, I do know Noxie has taken this Panther on a motorcycle thing to heart because he's the craziest sideline guy.
He's going to kill somebody.
He's going to be on a Zamboni running down players or something. It's going to happen this weekend. I don't know. But AGs need to get back to that defense that put them on that 4-game win streak. And they need to suffocate because, as we saw on the weekend, Toronto have some mistakes in them, some turnovers in them. They're not as polished as what they need to be. The playoffs are a strong motivator for teams, for the emotion, for the culture in the locker room. And teams who are in the mix are going to be driven to train harder and turn up, where teams that are now on the outside looking in or out altogether, that's tough. Toronto, not home, don't get to see the wife and kids or girlfriend and kids or both. Yeah. For some of the players, I don't know who, maybe they have wives and girlfriends, not sure how things happen up north of the border, not privy to that information.
Maybe they have both.
Maybe they do.
The Gagronis are now very, very fearful of Utah and San Diego. And that brings us to the next match. San Diego going into Utah, Brian.
Man, who do you pick in this one? San Diego all of a sudden has some new players. Are they going to get this other mystery gentleman in this week? I don't know.
Bernard Foley.
If he's in this week or not. It seems like Peterson is okay to go. So how do you pick against that San Diego side that all of a sudden has all these
If you're a dope, you pick against San Diego. You got to be dopey.
Utah, just squeaked through Seattle. Obviously the weather played a big thing there. This is such a tough game. I'm going to go with San Diego because Sheridan over there is going to stab me in the back if I don't make that call right now. So we'll go with the Legion to win on the road over Utah.
I want to pick San Diego because I just love the story. I love the run home, the excitement it makes. But I think Utah at home, as long as they're healthy and didn't come out of Starfire banged up, I think everyone looked like they were okay. So I'll go Utah at home. No Panther on a motorbike this week. That's my pick. You will not see the Panther on the field during play this week or ever again.
Ladies and gentlemen, last week I took some heat for saying on camera that I thought San Diego was going to win the West, and I'm doubling down here. They're going to come in second place, and then they're going to knock off the Giltinis, and they're going to represent the West in the final. And I think that might be against New York. I'm not definitively saying New York right now, but I think that might be the case. The next match, Atlanta at New York, Dan.
Like if you're talking just purely on form, you probably go with Atlanta. Probably looked a little bit more solid in their wins, but New York at home, that's a tough trip, man. New York played really well up there, and I think new stadium, right? New facility. They're at
St. John's.
There you go. So they'll be christening a new field, and my pick is Atlanta.
This one's probably going to decide, who finishes first in the Eastern Conference, which is a pretty big deal. It's a tough one to pick. Scott Lawrence gave New York quite a compliment actually after the game when, we were talking about what was ahead. And he said that New York was playing the best rugby of anybody in MLR. So that's, that's pretty good for them. But at the same time, I think in the back of his mind, he was quietly confident. He rested Matt Heaton this past weekend. So I imagine we'll see him back on the field against New York. I got to go with the confident, unbelievable rugby ATL right now, who are just defeating all comers at the moment. I just think that they're in a little bit better form at the moment, even though it's a tough one on the road. I just think that they have the ability to get it done, and they're just at another level defensively right now. So, if New York can solve that, maybe, but I'm going to go with ATL on the road.
I'm going to go with the home team in an epic battle. I'm going with New York on this one. Next one up, Seattle, the Seawolves, who are just snake bit going into New England, who has to win, Brian.
New England needs to win this one, and this is a heck of a long trip for Seattle, so I have to pick the Free Jacks to win this. But if the Seawolves ever wanted to mess something up for somebody, now would be a good time. They did look a better side, even though they kind of faded themselves in the final quarter. So maybe they can make a game of this one, but you got to go with New England at home.
Dan, a gutted Alan Clark after that match, rightfully so. They had that victory snatched from them.
They've actually looked really good since he's been up there. So I've got to give a lot of credit to Alan Clark. Ownership group up in Seattle saw an opportunity to grab a great coach who wasn't being used, and they took it. So that's smart play from Seattle to get him, and they've definitely improved under Alan Clark's tutelage. But that is a long road trip, Seattle to Boston. God, I hope they kick off at 10 a.m. and just take the old Toronto playbook on Seattle. Get them early in the morning, but New England, I'm going to go New England. I know they're getting some players back this week as well, which will definitely shore up their forward pack. And by doing that, you put some more depth on the bench. Stefan Kutsi turns up, former Seawolf player. You got Vili Tolitau, former Seawolf player. A lot to prove. Free Jacks. I think this is an 80-minute performance from them too.
Yeah, this is a tough one to pick. And if it wasn't for that travel, I would go with the Seawolves, because anytime you've got a Landry and a Tucker in your squad, it's pretty good. Brian, I got two questions for you on this one. What's the injury update or status of Samu Manoa, and did the Jackals get any compensation for losing their coach?
So I looked into it, and Samu Manoa is very, very large. So that's his status, and it remains large. That's about the extent of what I know about him. On Mr. Clark, yes. So Seattle gave Dallas some financial considerations. We don't know how much exactly, but they did pay to get Alan Clark released from his contract with Dallas. So he'd be a permanent addition to the Seawolves. Probably, maybe not such a surprise when he kind of moved over. Everybody kind of had this inkling, maybe they're having a look here for something permanent. But so yeah, there you go. They did give them some money for them.
The last one up, the Sabercats going into LA. Not what you want while you're struggling, Brian.
Yeah, you remember the last time that we saw Houston go to or LA play Houston, and that went completely different to what most of us thought. I don't think that's going to happen this time. I'm going to take LA at home by a lot.
LA's been on the road. They've been in tough matches. They're at home now. They want to regroup. They want to show the world once again their dominance. They're going to crush this team is what I think, Dan.
Yeah, I think you're right. But you go watch. MLR 2021 has been so much fun to watch. Houston will go put 50 points on and win.
Right.
52-50 or something like that on a freakish, last play of the game. But yeah, you'd have to think LA well rested. They've come off the bye. The bye hasn't been friendly to teams this year, but we'll see a lot of professional experience, a lot of tenureship in that LA side that know how to handle themselves on a bye week. I don't know if you saw much of it looks like some of the boys went down to Cabo, had a great time. I'm like, sign me up for that bye week.
Yeah,
for
no
sure.
kidding.
But LA at home, I think they'll make a good statement here, and tough for Houston fans to sit through this one. But just, if you can, enjoy that great LA side and watch some great attacking rugby, hopefully from both sides.
And you never know. You never know in this league. It's any given Saturday or Sunday, the other team can win. On that note, we are out of time. I want to thank Mr. Dan Power and Mr. Bryan Ray. I'm Matt McCarthy. Ladies and gentlemen, tune into us next week. But in the meantime, check out our other segments, including our Major League Rugby show, our Global Rugby Recap, What Are the Odds?, our Major League Rugby Sports Bet show with the Philly Godfather, John Bradshaw Layfield, the WWE legend, and Gifty Bailu, martial law, the Zack Attack, and please sign up for our American Red Cross Rugby Wrap-Up Blood Donor Team.